Let's get going, everyone. Let's do a quick review of the agenda. See if there's any questions. Then we will start the card back here. All right. Pledge and invocation. Got an announcement about our new parking policy for folks attending meetings. Ethics reminder. Any questions about the consent agenda from any members of the commission? We will, if that's a consensus, we'll move that to new business.
Yeah, I think we should.
Great. We will move that to new business. Anything else? All right. Under good news, Lisa Eby will explain the awards to the county communication team. Under the county manager's report, the county manager will address the new parking policy for participants in our meetings. Under new business, we'll handle the county clerk position, and the main item there is a presentation on the 2018-2019 budget. And we will not be taking any action on the budget tonight. The public hearing for that meeting, for the budget, is June 5th. So this is just an initial presentation. And finally, we'll have public comment. And that's the last item. We do anticipate having a closed session meeting this evening.
5 items.
And we'll go over what those are when we get to them to vote to go into closed session. All right, any questions? If not, I believe we're ready to begin the meeting. So Max, if you could start the introductory video. Good evening, and thank you all for joining us for the May 15th, 2018 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission. Let's begin our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us, rise and pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
before the next meeting of the Buncombe County Commission, our country and our community will recognize and observe Memorial Day. Memorial Day is usually seen as the kickoff for summer and a chance for a long weekend to enjoy family and friends and to relax. But as we all know, it's also a time to remember those who died while serving in the armed forces protecting our country and the cause of freedom around the world. So let us begin our meeting this evening by setting aside a moment for reflection and prayer to remember and give thanks to those who made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our country. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you very much. And thank you all again for being with us for our county commission meeting this evening. Before we go further, I'd like to ask everyone to please put your cell phone on silence or turn it off. And we also do have an announcement that I'd like to make, and our county manager, Mandy Stone, will, I believe, provide additional details on this during her county manager's report. But we do want to announce that we will have a parking validation for all participants in the county commission meeting. So if you park in a county parking facility next to the county building here at 200 College Street, or use transit to access our meeting, we will validate your parking or transit ticket. And anyone who needs to have that done can speak with one of the representatives of the security here at the entrance to the county commission meeting. So please feel free to do that. And we'll get some more details on that a little bit later. All right, I'd like to read the ethics reminder to the board before we get started. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the board, all county commissioners have a duty to obey all applicable laws regarding official actions, to uphold the integrity and independence of the office, to avoid impropriety in the exercise of official duties, to faithfully perform the duties of the office, and to conduct the affairs of the governing board in an open and public manner. Are there any items on the agenda, the outcome of which will have a direct, substantial, and readily identifiable financial impact for any board member? Does any board member have a financial interest in any public contract coming before the board today? There being none, all board members have a duty and obligation to vote on all matters that are voted on by the commission this evening. All right, and we now come to the consent agenda. By consensus, we have moved the item of appointing the new county clerk to new business. Are there any other questions about the consent agenda, or is there a motion to approve the consent agenda and follow the remainder of the agenda as published? Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, and so we now come to good news, and Lisa Eby is going to talk to us about the awards that our communications team recently brought back from the North Carolina City County Communications Conference. Lisa, thank you for being with us to give us an update on this.
Yeah, and I'd like to invite the communication team to come up here. So tonight, next one, good. So these are the people that are behind the scenes, hopefully making you all look good and also helping the community to understand the great work that's happening in our county. Tonight we want to recognize our award-winning communication team. In a time when there's a lot of talk about team process, this group of individuals exemplify what it means to work together and to amplify individual talents in pursuit of team excellence. Cassie Day, Dan Hess, Cataldo Perone, and Max Tainer are the communication team, and an illustration of my point about team process. When I asked if I should name a person to put toward each award, they were like, no, it's totally team process. We do it as a team, and we'll be recognized as a team. And I think that just speaks to the, not only is it refreshing, but also probably speaks to the secret of their success. This awards reflect the work that was done in the last year, and Thomas Mins was a part of that team, but he's now in IT. The awards were given by NC3C, the North Carolina City and County Communicators, and this organization is dedicated to professional development and networking of local government communications professionals. This year there were over 180 entries, and we took home 6 wins. So first place was Farm to Table Cooking. It was a cooking show produced in cooperation with local farms through Soil and Water, and it followed a chef to the farms and throughout our county, cooking vegetables and then creating awesome meals to cook. And it was a way to promote farms to sustainability, buying local and eating healthy. The second place was for a PSA video done in cooperation with the Asheville Humane Society on kennel frustration. And so it really showed how a dog in a kennel can appear frustrated, but when you put them out of the kennel, that you really get an ability to assess the dog's personality. The next one was first place for Best of Board of Commissioner Meetings. And this was a tribute to you all, as well as the fact that we have made these meetings much more accessible to the public through social media. It was also because of the newly created opener video that you all have seen and the production value. Second place for our social media B60 videos. These videos are just short, 1-minute videos, and they're great for taking news programs and information and condensing them into short, bite-sized bits that people are more likely to watch. Second place for Buncombe County Life publication, and that's the county resource guide that you all see out in our lobbies and around the county that tells people what we're doing and gives them an insight into county services. And finally, first place for marketing graphics for our Still Standing campaign, which is one of the ones you see in the lobby that is about domestic and sexual assault violence and really helping the community to understand that exists in our community and bring awareness to that topic. Truly, our team is small and mighty, and has given the statewide communication specialist a run for their money. And I would be very remiss if I did not acknowledge Kathy Hughes, because all of this was done under her leadership. She has nurtured and developed the talents of this team over the years, and it must be extremely gratifying for her to see this work recognized. So thank you, Kathy. So, that's the team.
Shameless plug, you can follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, should you want to. Instagram is very good, seeing some of those small videos. And, help and smile at that. Some of you are. It's good. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. There's your announcement, guys. Great job.
Great work, everyone. All right. Next up is the county manager's report. I'll turn it over to Mina Stone.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Staff have been evaluating model programs across the nation and the state that allow our citizens to more actively, our residents, people who work here and live here, more actively engage in the business of the commission and have more opportunity for input. One of the models that we found is to offer free parking for individuals or access to transit passes for individuals who come to present or participate in meetings where the board is actually in session, and that's the administrative policy that is actually going into effect tonight. One of the other models that we've seen that we've included in the FY19 budget is an open government platform that will allow people to participate remotely in meetings, be those commissioner meetings or planning board meetings for people who work, where the times we meet are not always convenient for them or they're unable to come to town. So we continue to look for opportunities to allow more voices in our community to be heard and to participate in your meetings. And that's the announcement. As the chairman said, the sheriff's officers, as you exit, have validated passes that you can use in the deck. They can also explain how you use those, as well as bus passes for individuals who are attending the meeting tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any questions right now, so thank you for the work that went into this to encourage folks to make it easy to attend our meetings, and thanks for the update. Okay, the next item on our agenda is we go to new business, and we moved the consideration for the county clerk position to new business, so let's go ahead and take that up now. So I'll just make a couple of remarks. I'd invite any other commissioners to do so as well. And just like to start this off by saying that this is going to be a tough position for the new clerk. They're going to be replacing someone who's been a great clerk for us for many, many years. And so, but we are very fortunate to have had a really strong group of folks. Kathy, remind me, how many applicants do we have total? Over 200 folks from across the state and outside the state applied for this job. And there are really many tremendous and very talented people, so it was a very difficult choice to even narrow it down. But we did, and I think it was a really good process. The staff, from Kathy and other members of the staff who worked with the clerk's office, had a lot of great input on the process, and then of course the commission did a lot of work and ultimately made a final recommendation on this. So really excited about it, and so thanks to everyone for all your work on what I think has been a very good process.
And I want to echo that, and the amount of applications, and without the work of human resources, to go through so many applications and pre-qualify some of the candidates. And then we formed a subcommittee, Commissioner Whiteside, Commissioner Belcher, and myself, and Lisa Eby, Human Resources, Mandy Stone, Mike Crew. Is anybody else there? And Kathy. Yes, and Kathy. And so we all know duplicating what Kathy did, we're not going to do that. But what I was amazed at, it was a great process, and I think it was a very fair process. And going forward, I think it could be a very good model. But staff, without staff doing what they did to set guidelines, great questions for folks. Human Resources gave us a certain amount of questions. Lisa asked all the questions. There was no crosstalk. Every candidate got a fair and equitable treatment, and I was amazed at the quality of candidates. And it was a very hard choice, but very hard.
So I think the final group, so help me with the numbers. We started at 200.
209 applications. We interviewed 12 people and ended up with 6 finalists.
So, there was a phone screen to get 12, and then we met with the 12 and narrowed them down to 6, and in the meantime, the commission met with 6. And this really should not be in the consent agenda at all. This is is where it needs to be, number one. Number two, one of the big reasons for me that it's here beside transparency and clarity, and that's the way it should be done, is that the commission had consensus on this gentleman, and it was a hard decision because there was so many amazing candidates. And I think it would be appropriate to, do you have Ms. Lamar's resume with you? I think it'd be appropriate to give the public qualifications to Ms. Lamar and Joyner. Thank you. I'm already on a first name basis with you. You just might have to get used to that. But to give a qualification so that they understand, and I'd also like to suggest, if it's not already there, that the resume would be where people could get to it and look at it, online, make it part of the package or whatever. But so if you could do that, then I think that'd be helpful.
So Lamar has an engineering degree from NC State University. He has worked for the last 11 years with the Board of Elections in Forsyth County as a deputy director. As part of the things that he did, this is just a subset of part of his responsibilities were to develop and implement policies and planning, organizing, and directing administrative actions for carrying out county, state, and federal elections, conduct elections in accordance with all applicable laws, manage the early voting process by coordinating locations, staffing, equipment, delivery, and setup, maintaining a liaison between the elections office and the public, voters, officials, election board members, and the media regarding election procedures and laws. Also, in his ability to do the same thing with all of these constituents explaining and the voting laws, policies, and procedures so that they are easily understood and followed with the public. When we think about the qualities necessary for the clerk, we were looking for somebody with an attention to detail. When I called one of his references, he said, "You do realize he has an engineering degree," because Lamar is very much a man that pays attention to details. In his current position, he has to make sure that he's compliant with all state laws, all federal regulations, which again is a key, very important aspect of his position. And then his ability to interact both with the public and the Board of Commissioners, as well as the media, is again skills that he brought to this position. And finally, I think we all experienced his tact and diplomacy and his ability to work in political environments and be bipartisan, and he had that quality as well. So, and it was a very competitive process.
All I have to say is, I agree with what Lisa said. That's what we saw. In the meeting that day with all the people, they all were good, but he just kind of stood out in his own way. And we discussed it very seriously. That's the way we went, and I'm content with where we all got together and went with him. He's a very nice man. He does know what he's talking about, and I'm just pleased that we're there. Thanks for bringing his credentials to us.
All right, is there a motion?
Second.
All right, there's a motion and a second to appoint Lamar Joyner to be the Buncombe County Clerk. He will be in an interim position until Kathy retires, and then he'll become the county clerk upon Kathy's retirement. Any questions or comments?
I do have a comment. So you vote on the resolution, does the payment be part of the resolution or not? Does the payment be part of the resolution or not? Pay the bill.
He hasn't accepted it yet.
Can't hear back here.
He hasn't accepted the formal yet, so I don't know if that, you can say what the offer is, I think, if you want.
Well, he hasn't accepted it yet. Let's just vote to extend the offer to him. The contract for this position is a public document, so that will certainly be, publicly available information. But it's still sort of in process. Let's just focus on the decision to extend the offer formally. Okay. Good question. All right, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Great.
Take public
Thank you.
comment.
The next item on the agenda is the county budget presentation. And so I'm going to turn it back over to Meeting Stone to get us started.
Chairman and Commissioners, I'll bring you tonight the FY19 recommended budget. As you all are aware, under North Carolina General Statute, we're required to bring you a balanced budget. I do want to make the point that as I present the budget message to you, it's also a message to our community and to the people that elected you to represent their interest and their perspective. I want to begin, it's all right if I have to do this all from memory. If it doesn't, I'm not. That's good. I want to begin where I always like to begin with budget, which is the end. I bring to you a proposed FY 2019 general fund budget. We developed a county budget. As you're aware, you spent months, about 50 hours in work sessions, staff work nonstop over the last year on this. And we developed a budget that would have decreased the tax rate 1 cent to 52.9. We were proud to do that because we were able to do that while holding all services whole, addressing department needs, and advancing your strategic priorities. As you know, at our budget hearing with work session with the education systems on May 8th, they brought forward a recommended increase of $4 million. Based on that increase, we bring to you tonight, if their request is fully funded, a budget that is a flat tax rate at 53.9 cents because their request exceeds the penny. I want to make 2 points about the recommendation. One is that while the school's combined request for increase is $4 million, I'm recommending $616,000 less than that, because to fully fund the request would put us in violation of our own policy to maintain a fund balance of 15%, undesignated fund balance. The second piece you'll see as we move forward is I'm recommending that a portion of the school budget, $2.7 million, be held in contingency until the state budget passes to allow us to reconcile the actual final budget and how it impacts the education budget. All of the requests from the school systems are based on projections related to the state budget, and I'll talk through that detail in a few minutes. I do want to begin by saying almost exactly a year ago today, when the former county manager delivered the budget message, neither I nor staff nor you were aware she planned to retire, or that that retirement would happen in about 6 weeks, or that upon her retirement, through standard exit audits, financial irregularities would be identified that resulted in an internal investigation. And I bring that up because that investigation has been a focus of the last year, both for the board and for the staff, as well as for the community and the public. I want to make the point that you were always clear with me and clear with staff that we had to continue the business of the people. We had to fully cooperate with that investigative process. We had to be as transparent as we possibly could and were allowed to be with our public. We had to be as proactive as we could in releasing information we believe had been released incorrectly or incompletely in the past. But we also had to do the work that our citizens rely on every day. And I feel like in the adversity that we have jointly faced over the last year and our community has faced, we have found opportunity and moved forward with new initiatives and provided new opportunities for the public we serve. I think we've done that by coming together with focus and discipline. And I want to say, when I look back over the last year, we've won strength in management. You've been clear about that expectation, as have we, as a staff, and as have our department heads. We've basically rebuilt our management infrastructure. We've launched a new financial software system. We've changed our structure for internal audit that both added additional capacity and also autonomy or independence for any management oversight. We've also continued to deliver quality services. I have several department directors here tonight and want to say that I bring this budget on behalf of them. They have worked hard on this budget, but even more than that, they and their staffs over the last year continue to focus on serving our citizens. They've never faltered in showing up to work, to deliver quality, timely services with compassion and skill, no matter the turmoil that was going on resulting from the outside investigation. You were also very clear that you intended to continue to move forward addressing both the short and long-term needs of our community, and you came together as a board and adopted strategic priorities, and we've made substantial progress in moving those forward over the last year as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we've strengthened management. One is, as you know, we've reviewed and revised all of our financial policies. We've launched a new financial system, Workday, that has baked-in capacity to ensure approval structures, and it has increased transparency, including what we will launch this summer, which is an online checkbook. We've expanded, as I said, our audit capacity, and one of the positions in this budget, there are 5 new positions in this budget, none of which you're approving. They're all by realigning internal resources. We'll be a financial analyst in the finance office to provide additional review of expenditures and patterns of expenditures and identifying where it's appropriate to engage internal audit. I also want to say we've realigned senior staff and salaries of senior staff in order to honor the commitment you made to raise the salaries of the lower paid employees. And this budget's reflective of continuing that trend. Quite honestly, we've rebuilt our management structure. We were an organization where we seldom met as a management team. We seldom met as a senior leadership team. We've reinstituted those structures and that process, and this budget we bring you tonight is really the work of all of our departments. We've also improved our internal and external communication as a part of strengthening our management. We've realigned internal resources to build a performance management team, and as you have seen and will continue to see, to build out dashboards in ways we can be transparent to the public. We've continued to increase our data analytics tools, and we've continued to focus on how do we maintain the highest quality of workforce. As I said, your 1,600 employees have also showed up every day to deliver high-quality services with compassion and with skill. And I think our employees touch people's lives in real ways every day around their health and safety and welfare, their communities and their families. And I think the best way to communicate that is to let you hear from them themselves.
When we think about the things that touch our lives throughout the day, Buncombe County government's programs and policies are involved in numerous ways. Ways we might rarely think about, from our morning rituals of health, to the food we eat, to the air we breathe. That park across the street, dropping your kids off at school. Buncombe County government has a daily impact on residents whether you're aware of it or not. Across our county, employees, professionals, our neighbors are working to shape our community, making sure we are strong, healthy, and safe, and moving us towards a community where we can all thrive. Their hard work can be felt throughout the community.
In 2017, the Planning Department reviewed 621 new subdivisions and 898 zoning permits.
We have 1.7 million library books available for checkout.
Community Connectors and Manna Food Bank made over 235,000 pounds of food available for low-wealth communities.
Over 152,000 tons of waste received and 14,000 tons of waste recycled.
Over 71,000 calls dispatched for emergency services.
Over 2,400 building permits issued and over 2,600 septic permits issued.
Over 1,900 pounds of fresh produce harvested at community gardens.
Over 24,000 children and adults participated in events and special programming by Recreation Services.
Over 1,100 homes powered by methane gas from the landfill.
The county provided over 11,000 immunizations in 2017.
4 diversion programs, 4 specialty courts, jail and prison reentry services.
Over 4,800 environmental health inspections, including restaurants.
Veteran Services assisted more than 500 veterans in obtaining more than $3 million in veterans benefits payments.
Over 1,300 women screened for breast and cervical cancer in 2017.
Over 882,000 visits to Buncombe County's most popular parks.
The Family Justice Center has helped over 400 people to the path of strength, safety, and hope.
Economic Services provided over $42 million in food assistance to over 16,000 households.
Over 400 families strengthened through our family income services.
Fleet Maintenance oversees 425 county cars every day.
We maintain 15 emergency communications towers.
At the Register of Deeds Office, we recorded more than 4,200 births last year and issued more than 2,700 marriage licenses.
In the past 10 years, major crime has been reduced in Buncombe County over 32%.
Nurse Family Partnership travels across Buncombe County, serving over 200 families.
214 environmental education programs sponsored by Buncombe County Soil and Water Conservation District that reached over
over 75,000 people.
Our goal is to work together to build a vibrant community where we all thrive. Buncombe County, transparency, accountability, equity, community.
In addition, as you know, in North Carolina, counties really do service the arm of state government, and many of the programs we provide are mandated by law or required. They're unique to counties in North Carolina. In addition to those services, you all came together as a board and agreed on some strategic priorities. You chose bold strategies, not easily achieved, but that had the opportunity to impact our community in the short term and the long term as well. Those included affordable housing, diverse community workforce, early childhood education, justice resource support, opiate addiction, and renewable energies. I'm going to talk about just a couple of the accomplishments over the last year, and note that at the bottom of the screen, there's a link to a document that includes all of the results and progress under each of those priorities that occurred over the last year. We were able to help 500 families maintain housing and avoid eviction. We invested in neighborhood-based economic pipelines, created more than 180 new preschool and child care spots, served more than 500 people in the Justice Resource Center since it opened in October. We opened the ABBA House, a 14-bed transitional recovery program for moms and their newborn babies, moms who struggle with substance abuse issues, and we weatherized more than 80 homes. I encourage the citizens to look at that complete list of accomplishments. Probably less exciting, but near and dear to my heart, is we also focused in the last year on regaining balance around our accountabilities and responsibilities. And North Carolina General Assembly, in establishing the framework for county governments, intended for the board and the manager to have different roles. The public elects you to be their voice, to move forward their priorities and perspectives by setting policy, by approving a budget, and by developing goals such as the strategic priorities you saw earlier. Management's job and staff's job is to manage those policies you adopt and move forward those priorities within a balanced budget in the most efficient and effective way we can. And our staff are the actual individuals on the ground who are delivering those services. I think one of the things most important to us as an organization was to regain that balance, to understand our roles are unique. You set the policy and we deliver the services. Also want to make the point that we enter into this budget cycle with the county in a strong fiscal position. Because of the actions of both this board and former boards, we have a strong and diverse local economy that continues to show growth. We've enhanced our internal controls. I've talked some about those, both in terms of the number of resources we've applied, as well as the autonomy that you've built into that structure. We have the highest rating from both major credit agencies, and we've built increased financial transparency to both the board and the public. That includes, as you saw last month, your CFO and our budget director providing updates to the board on a quarterly basis. It also includes dashboards and transparency in terms of the data we publish to the public. It was even reflected in the scope and level of documents that were published with this budget message. Second, we've really built our own budget framework, our own model, and some of that I want to talk about. This too is a document that's available online in detail, and you'll see the link at the bottom. Much of that's about right-sizing our budget. How do we stop our reliance on appropriated fund balance, basically using savings to pay for our ongoing daily operations? How do we, and we did that this year. We built budgets from the department level, from the ground up, line item budgets. You all have seen every one of those budgets. You've seen every note attached to the review of every line item of every department's budget. How do we build those budgets to deliver the service we need at the time we need and the way we need? And how do we move forward in this budget? It does that. Where departments aren't building contingency into their budget, but as intended by law, That contingency is dealt with in fund balance that you approve as emergencies come up. Ownership, there's a real recognition among county staff, and I've heard each of you say it to us, that this is the public's money. They've entrusted you to make decisions about the expenditure of that money. Departments also have ownership in those budgets because they're the subject matter experts who know what do they need in their budgets to deliver the services the right way. And how do we prepare for their future needs? We've built increased accountability into our budget framework. We've revised all of our financial policies and we've approved those. We've leveraged new financial and human resources by intentionally reducing duplication and maximizing resources by combining like functions across departments, and we'll continue that work over the next year. We've enhanced our transparency and increased both our external and internal capacity for communication. It's also about the process. We built a performance management team who's worked using existing resources, who's worked individually with departments to review those budgets, to forecast future needs, to look at opportunities for efficiency and effectiveness, and we'll continue that work all year long. Budgeting is not about standing here and delivering the budget message or about your vote. It's about managing the people's resources all day, every day in the delivery of services. Some examples of the ways this budget is different. You all have held 50 hours of budget work sessions. Those have allowed you to deepen your understanding of the budget and for you, the public, to have the opportunity to deepen their understanding and awareness of the county budget. We've also built online tools that are available to you as well as to the public. Those range from our debt to all of our positions and your pay. Capital projects are available through online dashboards, debt affordability, and our Budget Explorer. Those are all available to the public. You saw posted with this budget message an interactive Budget Explorer that actually allows the public to drill down into the budget and look at details at a department level, at a service level, or at a function level. That's a model that was built out over the last year. So to take us back to the actual proposal, we prepared the budget at $315 million, which would be at a 52.9% tax rate. Our education requests were slightly over $4 million. We were proposing an education increase of $3.4 million. This will allow us to maintain compliance with our own fund balance policy. And at that proposed education increase, you have a general fund budget number of $318,720,851 at a 53.9 cent tax rate. Again, that line item detail is available to the public at the link at the bottom of the page. I want to talk a little bit about this in our effort to be totally transparent, or through fear you think I can't add. The value of a penny is $3.7 million going into the FY19 budget. The difference between the proposed budget I brought you and an actual penny is $318,000. We will refine that number as we move forward and know, is that actually an excess that's lower than the requirement to keep a flat tax rate to address education needs. But we need to finalize the state budget and we need our final sales tax numbers to do that. So this compares to, for you, and I want to talk through that, the difference in the 18 budget and the 19 budget. So you will see the most striking difference is we've reduced reliance on appropriated fund balance by 56%, or $8.6 million. We've also are bringing you, and as a result of that, bringing you a reduction in the overall budget from $330 million general fund budget to $318 million. Again, this shows you the difference with the education increase and without the education increase. I do want to say, when you look at our ability to reduce by a penny based on just the county general fund budget without education, that in doing this, we still addressed all of the needs of departments. We maintained your funding for nonprofit partnerships, and we advanced all of your priorities, which means we accomplished savings and efficiencies across the county. There are no county departments who have budget increases except, and you'll see the detail of that, the Sheriff's Department, EMS, and the libraries are the only significant budget increases. This pie chart that you've seen before basically takes our revenue sources and talks through them. As you'll see, almost 75% of our revenues come from property tax, intergovernmental, and sales tax.
Do we have any information on the sales tax trend from last year to this year?
It's up. We just don't have the final. It's pretty flat to up, but we just don't have the final number. Next pie chart looks at expenditures by budget, and we'll make the point to you that, as would be expected for a county in North Carolina, the majority of the expenditures are in education, human services, and public safety, which are mandated areas of service delivery. I also want to show you this in a slightly different way than you've seen it before, which is net county cost. If you look at net county cost, you'll see that your largest expenditure is in education, and human services and public safety are within 1% of each other. This looks at the budget by type, and it shows you that 43.17% of our budget is in salaries and benefits, but I want to make the point, if you look at program support, the blue, the larger blue piece of the pie, that is mostly salaries and benefits in the two school systems. So there's also salaries and benefits in that piece. I'm going to run through this just quickly for you, but this really shows you the scope of services, the number of positions, and the total budget in each of your major service areas, the first being human services. Public safety, general government, economic and physical development, and culture and recreation. So before we get, the last frame of that is the education budget, which you see is about $85 million when you look across all of your investments between the community college, the two public school systems, early childhood education, educational support programs, and youth programs. Again, this is a really wordy slide, and that's because the General Assembly is fairly wordy about your responsibilities when it comes to education. It begins with very concrete responsibilities around things like school facilities and furniture and buildings for buses and vehicle storage and equipment, instructional supplies. Then it goes a little more vague and basically says counties have responsibilities for assuring that after the state appropriations are complete, your public education systems have enough appropriations to operate. I would draw your attention to the bolded sentence at the end of that statute, which says that in adopting the education budget, you do need to be consistent with your own fiscal policies, and that includes your fund balance policy. This is a look at the Buncombe County Schools proposed budget and recommendation. So their base budget was $62.5 million. I'm recommending that $2.5 million of their requested increase be held in contingency pending approval of the final state budget. You'll also see that we are recommending reducing their request by $518,000, almost $519,000 to comply with our own fund balance policy. If you look at, and of course, as you know, the city schools are slightly different because they receive the ADM share of the county. allocation, which is about 15%. So their base budget is almost 7 million, with their ADM share at 481,000. 121,000 of that is a share from the Buncombe County school increase. We would decrease their request by 97,352 to cover the 616,000 I need to remain in compliance with our own fund balance. We looked at trend data related to the schools. This shows that over the last 5 years, you have increased funding to the local school systems by $20 million. As you heard Dr. Baldwin say at your work session last week, you ranked 19th in the state for your contribution per capita to students because of your investment and commitment to education. I will make the point to you, because it's my responsibility to do this, that this is almost $4 million a year in increase. It has, if you look over that same period of time, outpaced your growth. And if that level of growth continues, if that level of growth in their increase continues, it will take increase in your property tax rate to support that.
The teacher supplements, how much was that?
If you look at this slide, this shows that your teacher supplements for FY18 was 20.3 million, and that you've increased payments since 2014 for supplements by 6 million. Something not captured in the education budget, because it sits between the Sheriff's Department and HHS, is you fund an additional $4.1 million a year to the 2 school systems for school resource officers, school nurses, and school social workers.
Question, the capital, this is not capital?
This is not capital.
Nothing to do with
No.
the schools that we build, committed to all that, this is just operations?
Yes. You also fund by statute the community college. As you heard, Dr. King made an increase request of $220,000 related to some salary increases, routine preventive maintenance and repairs, and utility rate increases. Per your resolution, proceeds from Article 46 are intended to offset operating capital and debt service, maintenance, and repairs related to ABTAC. And you've recently seen projections for Article 46, and it is able to support this increase. This shows the history of your funding to ABTAC. In terms of debt service.
Can I ask another question? Going back to the schools, have we gotten clarification since the work session about what the non-certified employees really make?
I've not received any, and I do not believe Diane has either. She's made a written request to their budget officer, but we've not received a response to that.
I think it's fair to remind Buncombe County Schools Commissioner Belcher about been after this for about 2 years.
It was one of the questions we asked them to address in the work session. In terms of debt service related to the general fund, as you'll see, your general fund debt is about at 21 million. That includes investment in infrastructure and equipment. Some of your major projects are your HHS campus, the new judicial complex, GE Aviation, your voting machines, and radio towers. This is basically the dashboard related to general fund debt, which breaks down the percentage, how that 21 million breaks out across your major areas. As you'll see, almost 52% of it is in public safety. The next largest area is reflective of the human services and your new health and human service building. I would say at the bottom are the standard measures for how well we're managing debt. And if you'll see in each of those that we are exceeding the measurement standards. So if you look at our debt ratio to assessed value, we're at 1.26%. with a standard at 3%. If you look at debt service to expenditures, we're at 9.33% with a standard at 18%. And almost, 63% of your debt fits in a 10-year payout ratio. When the standard for that we're exceeding the standard for that as well. You have not issued any new general service debt since 2015. You've also worked and you've directed us to work on right-sizing the fund balance. You've been very clear in your discussions with me as well as your CFO that you know we need a fund balance sufficient to cover emergencies and ongoing operations, but that you very much view fund balance as belonging to the people, and that we shouldn't be holding more of it than is needed to do our business. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because Mr. Flora covered it in detail in his CFO report at the last meeting. Your current fund balance policy is no less than 15% of undesignated fund balance. That is reflective for us of about 2.5 months of operating. And if you'll see, and I know that Mr. Flores shared this last month, if you look at Buncombe County's fund balance compared to the other urban counties, both in total dollars and per capita, you have the lowest fund balance. You're also responsible for passing the budget related to the non-general fund. In our non-general fund, our proposed budget for FY 2019 is $107,849,894, and those are areas that have offsetting revenues and transfers, and examples of those are listed below, like your 911 system, your inmate commissary, occupancy tax, and we'll talk in more detail in a few minutes about your fire service districts. If you look at debt service reflective of your non-general fund, it's at $32.2 million. We recently issued $54.7 million for school capital projects, and as noted on this slide, each of these has an offsetting funding source that funds the debt in these, whether that's Article 46 for the community college or your public school systems, or the solid waste fund, which runs as an enterprise fund. So I want to talk about what this budget delivers, and I want to say you've been very clear to me about your expectations on what this budget should deliver. If we look at it from a broad system level, we're bringing you a flat tax rate and addressing $3.4 million recommended increase in public schools. We're maintaining quality services and addressing the needs of our departments. We're fulfilling what is our legal requirement to fund our post-retirement liability. We're strengthening our capital infrastructure. We're restoring funding for fleet management. And we continue to address the lowest salaries for our lowest paid employees. When we look on a more on a level around specific projects that are your priorities, this budget, we continue to look at options for supporting affordable housing. You've committed over the recent years, and we continue to have responsibility for funding Lee Walker Heights at $4.2 million, Eagle Market at $2 million, as well as your annual contributions to home repair and into the Affordable Housing Coalition. You are funding in this budget grant matches for greenways or trails in Inca, Woodfin, and Black Mountain. You have finally new playground equipment and a new dock at Lake Julian, a new East Asheville library, renovations to the Inca Library. You continue to support your investment in nonprofits through your investment grants, and will you continue to move forward your strategic priorities in this budget? I want to take a minute to talk about what this new management approach delivered, because your county departments did bring you a budget that was down 1 cent. We did that, in doing that, we also reduced the appropriated fund balance by 56%. We have got to learn to live. by being able to pay our regular bills without relying on savings, and that's what appropriated fund balance is. We have got to reduce our reliance on appropriated fund balance, and this budget does that. We met our department needs, including those departments who had additional staffing needs, by realigning the staff we already had. We developed our performance management system. We continue to address salaries of our lowest paid employees, and we reallocated. You know, I saw the media reported that we increased funding to our human relations and personnel office, and we did. And we simply consolidated the functions of HHS, HR, and county HR to leverage additional resources for the same amount of dollars. We've been very focused, you as a governing board and us as both your department directors and your managers, on identifying what are the risks to us as an organization and how do we mitigate those risks moving forward. Some of the issues that we face and risks that not mean they're negative things. They mean they're things that we have to be aware of on our horizon. Is we're in the final stages of a salary study, and depending on the results of that salary study, we'll have to have strategies around implementation. We, like all organizations across the nation, continue to struggle with rising healthcare costs. We have some delayed capital and debt needs. We, as you know, have been very focused on managing our jail population, and you'll actually hear a report from Rachel Nygaard, your first meeting in June, that details some additional opportunities coming our way related to that. We will have 8 to 9 new department heads next year, and there's opportunity in that. But there's also organizational risk in that we have to manage through onboarding and providing adequate financial and budgeting support to those departments. We're always watching for when our growth may slow. We rely on that growth, and we know that it has to be managed appropriately, but we're always watching that. And for every county in North Carolina, you know, we bring you a budget recommendation without a state budget, and we are very impacted by the actions of the General Assembly. Where they land on the final school budgets, education budgets will impact our budget, and every year in recent history they talk about redistribution of sales tax, which creates risk for us. While we've identified risk, we've also been equally focused on how do we mitigate that risk, because that's our responsibility to know those risks we face and be taking proactive actions that will mitigate them. Our improved financial software is certainly one of those. Building out the performance management model and the analytical capacity that builds for us, for you, and for the public. Increasing our internal audit, not only our capacity, but the autonomy of the independent of our internal audit. Clarity of the roles. You are the governing board. Our role is to manage the policies you set within the budget you establish. Increasing our transparency and communication, not only to you as the board, but to the public that we all serve. How do we see ourselves moving forward? You know, this has been a year where we've rebuilt infrastructure, but we have to solidify those changes in practice going forward. This isn't about one budget year. This is about changing the way we operate. You know, the new financial software system will deliver an online checkbook sometime this summer, so every transaction in the county is available for the public to see. We've been exploring and will actually implement in the next year a more participatory budget model. We've seen another urban county in North Carolina implement a participatory budget process that's recommended by the National County Commissioners Association. We are engaging your citizens more in the development of the budget. We're updating our county strategic plan, which is woefully out of date and should serve as a framework for our work. We're asking you as we move forward to remember that as you receive one-time revenues, that you direct those to one-time expenditures, to reducing debt, or to the fund balance. We talked just a little bit about fire districts, which are one part of our non-general fund budget. I'm going to go back to roles. safety nor you. We have a room full of those experts. And it is not our role to in any way try to interpret what they need to deliver the highest quality frontline protection to our citizens. Your role is to establish the tax rate, and my role is to ensure that all public funds are used in a way that are within budget and that meet the needs of our community. Fire districts are our front line for public safety. That's why this issue is so important to us, that we have a model that's sustainable and provides them with the capital needs, the support, the reserves, the staff, the personnel, the training that they need. The media and community have been very aware over the last year that at least 2 local fire districts have faced financial challenges. Questions about how they operate in terms of transparency, as well as decisions that they've made from a financial perspective. You know, that tells, and we've met with the chiefs several times and we'll continue to meet with them, but that tells them and us that we will in this budget be talking about distributing $29 million public dollars to our fire districts. We have to have adequate management, oversight, and public reporting tied to that, as we do with any expenditure of public dollars. Through multiple work sessions, you've assessed and heard from chiefs about what are their challenges from a business perspective and what are their challenges from a fire protection perspective. You've talked to them about your primary concerns being related to firefighter pay and safety gear. You have 12 of 20 fire districts who are requesting tax rate increases totaling $2.7 million. Those requests range from 0.80 to 5.5 cents increase. They are clear and provided you with detail in a template. They are seeking increases to address salaries moving closer to state averages for firefighters, and some of them are challenged with supporting their capital and reserve needs. While this is very busy, it is also posted online, but it shows to the public what the current tax rate is, what some history from FY 17 to 18 for each of those districts, as well as their 19 requests, and what that means in dollars as well as cents on the tax rate. You know, I know that you're aware of this. I encourage the public to look at that and understand that the base in each of those districts is very different. So a penny in one district equates to $500,000. 4 pennies in another district is $144,000. And people need to be aware that there are the requested rate increases in terms of cents, but they equate to different things in terms of dollars. How can we, as the county management, with this board's support the critical work of our fire districts moving forward? Our first proposal is that we move to cash flow support, where we begin to pay them in equal 1/12 payments so that they are able to manage their expenditures and revenues with a stable inflow of cash. We want to update the service agreements. We've talked to the chiefs about this once and have several additional meetings scheduled. And we know that these are some things that will require being implemented over time. But we need to standardize their financials. It's very difficult for us to evaluate their debt ratios or their expenditures to revenues ratios, because they're all unique and they're all governed by unique boards. We think and want to have that continued conversation that it's helpful to them and us, for us to help provide some of the training and support to move them to a more standard system. We want to support them with financial training for fire district staff and boards. We want to provide them with the training support and skill development support. They are the best of the best at ensuring our protection against fire. That doesn't, I mean, they have varying degrees of financial support that they purchase or provide within their own staff, and we want to make sure we provide equal opportunity to all the districts to have the financial capacity they need. We want to continue to have conversations with them about if there's opportunity to consolidate some of the back office services or billing services or health insurance pools that allow them to invest the majority of their money in frontline fire protection to their communities. And as you heard in the report from Emergency Management Solutions, in a study they did for us, there may be gains in centralizing ambulance billings. We don't know that, but that's an ongoing conversation we want to have with our fire chiefs and our fire districts. We think it's our responsibility to assess the long-term sustainability of those districts to make sure they have the financial capital planning and reserves that they need to ensure our safety going forward. In close, I would tell you that these are the documents that have been posted to the public for the last 2 weeks and will continue to be posted to the public. As you know, today is about me delivering the budget message. 2 weeks till the public hearing in which the public has an opportunity to speak. And 2 weeks beyond that before you're actually scheduled to take a vote. So about slightly over a month for the public and our citizens to continue to weigh in on the budget. For those who may not attend the budget hearing, we wanted to offer several opportunities for them to pose their question or get additional clarification. They can call the Let's Talk hotline at 828-250-4066. They can email us at letstalk@buncombecounty.org, or they can email our budget staff at budget@buncombecounty.org. They also, as I previously said, have the opportunity to speak at the public hearing. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Praise for a lady that's worked very hard to bring this budget forward, and the staff. That's what I praise. It took a year. You stepped in a bucket. And you come out of the bucket pretty good, I have to say, my son. You put the people in place. Are we perfect? I don't think so yet. But are we getting there? We're a whole lot closer than we were. What you presented tonight is a whole lot more than I've seen in the 5 years that I've been here. Period. It's understandable. I thank you. I thank all the staff. Because you're the people that make it work. It's not us. We're just here. We're here to listen to what y'all have to say. Now we can listen to what y'all have to say, and we can talk to you. That's a change. And I thank you for that. But I'm just so happy to see something that's come forward. You know, you saved $8 million basically in the fund balance. You tried to get it where we give a penny back to people. Now the schools are looking at the penny. We have to look at things differently. You know, the eyes have to be opened in other ways. And appreciate what you've done. I understand all your departments have looked at different things, and everybody's working fine. So, only thing I can say is thank you.
Andy, I would like to add to that, because this year to me is my second budget as a commissioner, but is as much different as night and day. Because this year, for the first time, we have a budget that I feel comfortable in voting on, because I know what's in it. And if you will hold up the workbook, Jasmine, I left mine at home on my desk. But folks, for the first time, we got the budget. And me being who I am, I've read that book. I went to sleep twice on it. But thank you and your staff for a job well done, because this is the only way we can do our job and take care of the constituents or the taxpayers of Buncombe County. We've got to intelligently know what we're doing and work together as a commission and staff. And I feel that we all have done that this year, and it pays off for us too. But keep up the good work, and I'm sure you've got the support from us and from the community, because we just didn't bury our heads in the sand when it comes to what we're going through. It's tough. And I will tell you from being new, that I've pulled on my 40 years experience in banking because it's been I thought I'd seen everything, but now I have. But keep up the good work and thank you and your staff for everything you've done.
I want to say, none of us knew, and when you took this job, you did not know what was in store for any of us. And when I reminisce about the bait and switch of every budget that I've been a part of since I became a commissioner, and it got progressively worse, and it was triangulating commissioners. I don't think any of us were very clear on who supported things because it was just a bunch of bait and switch and not truthfulness. So the transparency and the honesty of that big book is an incredible accomplishment. And I want to thank everybody because you all have been criticized, maligned, and you're at the front line and you delivered.
So I got a couple of things to say. One is, I guess, 5 years?
Yeah.
Fifth budget, sixth budget? Or six?
Yeah.
I can tell you that input was countywide in this budget. Every commissioner had input, every commissioner had a say. I couldn't say that about the previous budget. I'm not surprised by what I see. And also, this is a budget presentation, so there's still some work that can be done. I think we need to realize that and understand that from additional input. But I mean, we were given several different scenarios on how it could go, and we really did not know until we had all of it. And we still don't know the final ask as far as education goes. But I'll look at some of the some things that are in here that mean a lot to me, and I know to other commissioners, which is, you know, we one of our strategic priorities is touching communities in a lot of different ways and trying to affect the adults and families that are affected by opioids and other issues. There's a big commitment in this budget, again, as I think maybe Commissioner Pryor said about the 8 million or the reduction, or something like that. In the Lake Julian playground, the trails and places for families to go and to walk and to spend time with each other, and in the libraries where they can learn and bond and to be able to do this and to have the budget presentation where it is with some of the other things that's come in is I'm very proud of those things because they came from the public and they were put through to you, and you guys worked on it. If you could have seen where all this came from, it was like a war room is what I thought it was. Where you went into and some of you have been in those rooms where you go into a room and there's, we can only have, a couple of commissioners at a time in there and spread the entire wall with every kind of scenario you could think of, and to work through it and present it in a professional way as you did is really good. I'd just like to say it is a living document. The other thing I'd like to, and I guess I can say this now, so I guess I can say it whenever, actually I guess I can say it whenever I want to, but there's still a HCA and the mission acquisition is out there.
Yes.
I don't want us to forget about that. I think at a minimum, if I'm not mistaken, it's a 2-cent impact.
That's correct.
And so, depending on when that comes in, I want to make sure that we're as a board, we're paying attention to that. and that staff is also paying attention to that, prepared for that, because it will be that can be a dramatic impact. Depending on when it happens. So, I'm not sure what the deadlines are. I guess there is a deadline, and it's got to happen by a certain time for it to affect the budget.
I think that, yes, and they continue to anticipate, if it moves forward, closure by October, which would affect it in the 2020 budget. Mission has scheduled an update for you and City Council in early June, and I can't remember the date, but it's like the second week in June. That'll be hosted here, and we'll certainly publish it to answer your specific questions and the city's specific questions and talk about the timeline. We're also promoting through our webpage all of the Facebook and interactive ways that Mission is attempting to educate the community on the impact of these changes. We're continuing to explore them the opportunity for a public input session beyond their meeting again.
When would it have to happen to affect this budget?
As long as he's here, but it's
Before July 1.
before July 1.
That's not, sounds like that's not.
But it would affect the next one if it happens in October. So we did not build this budget anticipating any additional revenues from Mission. You've been clear with us about if that does occur, that those would be decisions obviously made at the governing board level around the tax rate.
The only other comment I'll make is about the online dashboard. If you really like that stuff, we got plenty of it. You can go and you can drill down and you can, and if you can't find what you're looking for on that, I mean, it's an online checklist. I mean, it's just what it is. And then email us, call that number, and let us know, because, our goal, the staff's goal is to make sure that you can find whatever financial information that you want regarding your money.
And I wanted to thank the fire chiefs as always for your service, and I hope we can continue and form strong partnerships because I've said all along about the pay, and I hope we can form strong partnerships so that the fire district can be sustainable and work well with us, because there's not a board here, there's not any stronger board that supports the board that we do.
Just briefly, I'll chime in and echo what others have said to express appreciation, County Manager Stone, to you and your staff. And, I think there's many things to appreciate about the way y'all have approached the budget process, from the scheduling and the thoughtfulness of the work sessions to having access to this document as we do right now, to something I've heard you say many times, which is that you really believe in a style of leadership where you give people room to lead and share their ideas and their vision. And that's evident as you look at the departmental budgets, that it really reflects people who understand what is happening on the front lines of the county's work. A budget tells a story of who a community is and what a community values, and I think this is my second budget cycle, and this sure feels like it tells a story that I'm proud to be part of, and really look forward to working with everyone on the commission in the next month as we have the conversations we need to have, and especially as we keep hearing from community members. My inbox is filling up, as it should be, with messages, and encourage people to keep getting in touch about what matters most to them. Coming to the public hearing if your schedule allows, but there's lots of other ways to communicate with us. And this is the people's money, and it is our shared community, and look forward to the good work ahead in the next few weeks. And thank you all for the incredible work that's gone into meeting this deadline.
Yeah, Mandy, I want to thank you and the staff for what you've done, because Commissioner Whiteside, last year was my first budget, but not the first that I've done over my career. And I was wondering what I got into last year when I seen the budget of how it worked. I said, maybe this is a new way. But you've showed us that what happened last year and what you've done in 1 year is absolutely amazing. And all I can do is remember last year when we were sitting here, that us dropping it down to 53.9 of the problem we was gonna have this year because we wasn't gonna be able to keep it down. You've kept it down and even looking at us dropping a penny, but now the school's coming back, but our future looks good here. And that is great knowing we're not in trouble now. But I guess the last thing is, I think everybody else already said everything I wanted to say, but I'm just glad that you did not put into this budget of any money that was swinging out here on a carrot. You're waiting until we've got it in hand before you make a decision. Thank you.
And that would be your decision as a board.
All right. Commissioners, thank you all for your comments. Maybe thank you to you and your staff for all your work on this. We've had a lot of great work sessions to explore different aspects of this budget over the past months. And this is just the formal presentation. So there is, as has been said, there's more work to be done and more information to come in before we make final decisions. So we appreciate everyone's input on this from the public, and there are a lot of great resources both online and if you want a hard copy of this so you can hold it in your hand and look at this document and see what is this budget, that is available too. And when we approve a final budget,
You just can't have it bound. We bound those ourselves, and our skill set with binding is that.
and when we approve a final budget, there'll also be a final version of this so that people will be able to see what exactly we approved. So whether you agree with everything or you don't, you'll know exactly what you got. So any other comments before we move on to public comment?
I can ask now. Wasn't there was there's an error on the capital plan?
It is not an error on the capital plan, but the funding for Orchard Park moved out of capital plan we'll move out of the capital planning. It's a reduced amount for a total of $150. It was originally at 2. But it'll be associated with parks and recreation. You keyed me up and I forgot it both in my notes and a second time. I did talk about 3 large greenway projects. All of those are where we play a role of matching substantial large grants. They cover the majority of the cost of those trails and greenways, and all 3 of them have very strong economic impact studies that support that they will generate tax base, but we are not funding the 3 of those individually. We're actually the match for additional grants. So you queued me up twice on this voucher and I missed it both times.
We are now at public comment. We review our protocols on this. So we welcome any members of the public who would like to speak to the board at this time. The time limit for individual comment to the board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave any question along with your name, address, and phone number with the county manager. Commissioners are not expected to comment on any matters during public comment. This is your time to speak to the board. And the board reserves the right to deny public address on subjects that have been previously had a specific public comment on them earlier in the meeting, although I don't think there's any of them in the meeting tonight. So, Mr. Yelpin, would you like to come forward?
I got a whole bunch of scribbles here. I'll cover what I can. I do think you're trying to be more transparent, and I think that's a hard job because you're up there and we're out here, and we see things differently than you do. And Brownie, you made a mistake tonight, I think, when you didn't take public comment on your vote to hire the clerk, because I was going to give you some advice. You better hang around Kathy a long time because she can tell you no and make you like it. And he's going to have to work hard to do that, okay? But when I hear that we got 209 applicants, I'm going to go home and pull up the salaries of the current clerks and the rest of the state, and I bet you $1, because I don't see a whole lot of people wanting to jump into the mess that Buncombe County had, unless there's a lot of money for it, because money buys everything, okay? But when you hear about property valuations, They all went up last year. We just heard on this one good presentation, by the way, of all the permits written for new houses to be built. And then we hear about the mission being private to start paying property taxes. So that gets my little brain to working up here. And I think that's gonna put a lot of money in the pocket. And I can promise you that the city schools and the Buncombe County schools will be here begging you for that money. And I've got a wonderful suggestion for this board to consider to advise your county manager. I see something like $30 billion going to debt service. Why don't we take that extra money and pay off the debt? Because then that would help the local citizens that were born and raised here in their property taxes. Because as you pay that debt off and you keep managing like you're doing right now, you can hold that budget year after year after year. Because you're headed in the right direction when you make each department account for themselves. I'm talking about maintenance, everything, and you do it by department by department. And why I tell you that is because when I worked at Buncombe County Landfill, the Buncombe County schools was dumping their C&D waste for free in the landfill. So all the citizens out here were paying and giving the schools extra money. And until I told a guy over at the school board over there that I was going to go public with that if they didn't start paying, he said, well, it's all the same money. I said, no, it's not. We got a budget for the landfill. We're a free enterprise. We're like a free enterprise system, and we've got to pay our way. So you're going to pay. Because when a contractor showed up down there, all he had to do was say, that was school trash, and guess what? The contractor put money in his pocket. And brother, you better believe people will steal you blind if you can. So keep on being transparent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I did err in not taking public comment on that. That was an oversight on my part. Too late now. Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You can either smile, love me, or hate me, but I'm gonna tell you one thing. You commissioners that are sitting up there right now, if you were to come to Mr. Rice and talk to me when you got on the board or before, you wouldn't sit up there and scratch your head and your butt and figure out what's going on. You'd have known. Because I'm gonna tell you, the same thing has happened tonight. It's happened tonight. It's happened ever since you've been here and before, for 30 years that I've been here. You commissioners have got a hard job, but if you don't educate yourself before you get sitting up there, you're going to come on and you're going to look like just what you are right now. 5 years later, you're trying to catch up. If you'd listen to me, not just because I know something, because I know something that's very technical. And that's something about the schools and the school's budget. When you got the city school over here and you pump money in it by the millions over the years, and you can't even get the achievement gap of the black children in focus, there's something wrong with that picture. Buncombe County is putting every bit of their money to the top, and you're sitting here and watching it. They're coming in here and asking for more employees when you're not even questioning what they want them for. These employees they're looking for, SROs, social service, what do you call it? Social workers, counselors. These are not the people you need to be teaching your kids. The people that's been on the enrollment for years that's being put out is people with degrees in education. The people that they're coming in here wanting this year for me, way up there, $800,000 or something. These are the people that they should have already have employed and kept them employed. So why would they be coming to you now? These social workers and counselors is not the people you need. These people are going to Raleigh to get a salary increase. They ain't going down there to get help for the kids. If it wasn't a salary increase, they wouldn't be going. Now, the school fund balance. You can ignore it, and you're doing it right now. There's nothing in this budget that tells me that you are paying attention. With $20.2 million in the city and the county school budget, and it's by law that they shouldn't even have it, you're plumb ignorant commissioners if you don't address that question with a policy and an ordinance, and I've asked for it to your county manager, and I haven't got it yet. This is the new county manager. Now, if you can't address that fund balance question and fairly, you need to be gone and a new set up there. Thank you.
All right. All right. A couple announcements. On May 22nd at 11:30 a.m., the county commissioners will attend the annual county employee awards luncheon at First Baptist Church in downtown Asheville. On June 5th at 5 p.m., the commissioners' regular meeting will be held at 200 College Street here in room 326. Mr. Frew, could you let us know about the topics to be covered in closed session this evening?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we have 5 matters I'd ask the board to make a motion to go into closed session to discuss this evening. Under 143-318-11A, 2 matters under subsection 4, that's economic development matters regarding expansion of industry in the area. Under subsection 6, 2 personnel matters. We anticipate the board giving direction. Of course, if any action is to be taken, it has to be taken in open session. And 1 matter under subsection 3 regarding the attorney-client privilege matter regarding potential treaty matter. That's about it.
All right, is there a motion to go into closed session? Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, we're in closed session. We will come back out into open session, but not taking any action.
All right. Pretty good.
Come on.
All right, we need a motion to go back into open
So
session.
moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We need a motion to adjourn. All in favor, please say
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Hey, Joe,
Yes, sir.
I have a question for you and Ella.